What's up, guy?
Bro,
You good?
I'm tired, man. I've had back-to-back meetings the whole week. Because
Put on your video.
Yo, can you guys hear me?
So, I mean, right now, the time now is for completely unhinged spaces. We need to create that shit, G. We need to create completely, in terms of creating and harnessing the therapeutic power, hip hop. You understand? We harness this therapeutic power by creating these spaces in Jalo as these completely liberated zones. You understand, where we can talk about anything, whatever the fuck we want. You know what I mean, G? There are so many. If we are Landela, you know, the discourse happening, especially up here in South Africa, you know, but also, you know, the global discourse. If you Bulandela on the police brutality, conversations, you know, is this guy George Floyd, those conversations, and the kind of dynamics of the protest action that was taking place, racial dynamics, you understand? You know, so Nzamuguti, as much as the protest was about liberation, there were some things you couldn't talk about, G. You know, it quickly transformed into an issue, especially up in South Africa, black men hate black women. Yakonda is serious, Lena Eka George Floyd, but we've got a much bigger problem of black men hating black women, you understand, and because this lens on George Floyd Kakate is because you understand. So
George Floyd was a 46-year-old father who was stopped by police in Minneapolis on the 25th of May, suspected of using fake money to pay for cigarettes. A white police officer was seen kneeling on Mr. Floyd's neck as he was pinned to the ground. He repeatedly cried, "I can't breathe." He was held down for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. After 6 minutes, he stopped moving. George Floyd's death has echoes of many others. Trayvon Martin was shot and killed by a man in Sanford, Florida, as he walked alone one evening. George Zimmerman was eventually charged but found not guilty. The acquittal led to public outrage and the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement. 18-year-old Michael Brown was fatally shot by police in Ferguson. Eric Garner was choked by a police officer. His dying words were, "I can't breathe."
Hey, Amadou Diallo was shot 19 times. The police fired 41 shots combined. Mistaken identity, they had to admit it. When they went to trial, all 4 officers got acquitted. Ahmaud Arbery, his skin made him a target. 2 racist white men shot him while he was jogging. Betty Jones was inside of her house the day after Christmas when shots rang out. A bullet traveled inside of her home and slaughtered her. No charges were filed against the officer. Cornelius Brown, cops chose to kill. They shot him 7 times, he was mentally ill. Dominic Fuller was murdered, it gets stranger. They say he had a gun, all he had was a stapler. Eric Garner He was a father, but now a martyr. Ain't deserved to be slaughtered. His last words, I can't breathe. Moment of silence. The officer who killed him didn't even get indicted. Emmett Till, 14 years old. They claim he flirted with a white woman. How cold. They took off his clothes, called him a nigger, lynched him and threw him in the Tallahassee River. Freddie Gray had his spinal cord severed, killed in a police van after arrested. 6 officers got charged, this is ridiculous. 2 years, 4 trials, no convictions. George Floyd, 3 officers nailed on him. He told them he couldn't breathe, they didn't care for him. The country rioting everywhere for him. Fuck those cops, I have no fear for him. Hector Moran, he was unarmed. The cops shot him dead, he cried for his mom. India Kaga, Navy vet. The passenger in the vehicle was a suspect. Her baby in the back seat, the cops started shooting. The officers were cleared of criminal wrongdoing. Jamal Clark, restraint wasn't enough. They shot him in his head while he was in handcuffs. Hal Coppin was mentally ill, but they say he had a gun, all he had was a hairbrush. The cops shot him, a king with the coroner. No charges were filed against the officer. Laquan McDonald was jaywalking. They shot him to the ground, murdered without a warning. Alleged that he pulled the knife and tried to rush him. The video proved they lied. How disgusting. Mike Brown, the suburbs of Ferguson. Allegedly a cop drove by, he had words with him. The officer shot him, he did nothing wrong. Why did he have to kill him? The man was unarmed. Nathaniel Pickett, rest heavenly. He was brutally murdered by a sheriff deputy. Oscar Grant, the world knows his name. He was traveling, the cops grabbed him off the train, placed him on his knees, laid him on his chest, then shot him in his back. May he peacefully rest.
You know what I mean? You know, so of course the discourse and the talk and the conversation started to become fragmented. And if you understand, you have to be very sensitive. You have to be very sensitive and tread very carefully. You understand, because you know what I mean, because it's a racial issue. You understand? You know, this guy, there's Unansika Andile Ngitama, who talks about liberated zones, you understand, and the possibility for very meaningful conversations, unhinged, wild conversations to happen between blacks, you understand, in the absence of whiteness, because, you know, I think ultimately he believes that every black or most black problems in South Africa reference whiteness. So whiteness is the reason blackness finds itself in this position, and so it cannot provide solutions for blacks. Blacks need to provide their solutions, but you know, whenever they've tried to provide these solutions, you know, whiteness has always intervened. As protest, they quickly became, from George Floyd, they quickly targeted statues. You understand? It became a symbolic battle. Okay, of course, we've put the spotlight on police brutality against blacks. Now let's put, and that was a victory, right? That was a victory, as you know, it was a kind of victory, especially when those police officers got indicted or whatever. I'm not sure where that case is at the moment, but there was some kind of breakthrough, you know what I mean? And so that was celebrated as a victory, you know. But it was a kind of truncated, it fragmented the struggle, because now France is like pulling down statues. Other colonial countries are pulling down statues,
But you see,
and that's being celebrated.
That has been the strat from to fragment the struggle has been the strat from Allah.
I want to deal with that real quick. Go ahead. Because that is my issue with their movement. Stay with me. Stay with me. Let me go back to my ancestor, Frederick Douglass. Then we're going to move on. Because one thing we got to do, y'all, I talk about this, and y'all hear me talk about this. When we talk about the black agenda, we have to stop taking time away from the black agenda to feed other people's agendas. Are y'all not? I want to deal with that. want to draw a parallel, respectfully. When Frederick Douglass was fighting for the right for blacks to get the vote, Susan B. Anthony and other white feminists told Frederick Douglass that you should not let the black man get the vote until the white woman get the vote. And Frederick Douglass said the struggle of a whole race ain't got a damn thing to do with your struggle against your man. No, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. You cannot equate the gay struggle with the black struggle. That's our problem. Respectfully, they are not together. No, my sister, no. No. The LGBT movement is a movement for the right to practice a certain behavior. The black struggle, no. The struggle for black folk is a struggle to be treated like a human being.
Okay.
Women. So right now, yo, my bad. I just joined this conversation.
Y'all are having a woman's conversation that side, please.
Nigga, how you brothers doing, bro? Nah, this is Dusty, Brian, G-Dog. Yo,
what's good, my brother? Pound.
Peace, kings, peace.
Sure.
Hey, bese ngithanda uku-attack abantu besifazane la besu-Instagram bese ngibathanda ngabe abantu besimama. Ngibathanda ukufa.
Utheni.
Someone posted this hood healer who posted into ulo bell hooks from some book where she's saying white black men and white women are two people that can live going both ways. They can say they are oppressed and they can oppress other people. You know what I mean? So they can be oppressed by Belung, but then they can oppress. So Tineza Machitanda Mnyama, singa oppress, Mrs. Pinas oppress our born. And then she just basically saying, and I'd read something, or 19 Keys, he was speaking about how Angela Davis, the Black Panther woman, was like, white women and black straight men are the weakest links in the revolution because white women are ready to please the white man, and as black straight men, we're trying to be like the white man. So man, just while a comment now, I'm like, now it's touching me. So I just post and I'm like, yo, this is deep, man. But I'm thinking this is deep, but I don't necessarily think we would know all people are on that vibe. That we're all necessarily pushing that. And on top of that, I have personally experienced, and I was like, this is deep, and I hear what you're saying. I don't think Sonke Siranjalo, but personally, I have experienced, what I first said was that abuse can be inflicted by all groups, not men and then after that, I was like, I have personally experienced abuse from a woman, a black woman on top of it.
In what context is this being posted?
On Instagram, someone who would heal, she is you can check her out, contact umuntu babambiza ngani. Ngathini umuntu oyisangwa ngiyayibona kodwa ngala is a medium, so she's always reading like astrology things and medium masho njalo.
Sure.
But so I think she was just posting and she's like, yo, people must read this book. So, but what's crazy is, this woman is supposed to be a black, not she's supposed to be, she is. She's a black leader, and a lot of people look to her in this crazy time. Look at Commander, and there's a good say, she's signing pep, Amanyim Sam, Tandazan, Connect, so it's like, this is a lot of black messaging. Mind you, Mrs. Sobon is a day, I'm confused, man. I understand. And they came hard at me, bro. They came hard, and you can't speak for all black men. I'm speaking for myself. And then someone is like, don't speak for yourself. You being those white people that are saying, well, I'm not racist. I'm like, yes, I'm tired.
I mean, this is a conversation I'm seeing on sure.
Mera ke wena, yabona wena TMO, you just came in. Lok was just saying, well, he was breaking down something about Lemnitama's talks of like a liberal,
Sure.
a liberal
Liberated zones, yes.
black people, liberated zones. Black people can actually discuss like their shit without white reference. Well, in fact, he was saying that all black people's problems reference whiteness. You know what I mean? Which means like whiteness is the reason we have problems anyway. So in order to find a solution, we kind of need to then be like alone, you know, and incubate a solution without white people. So now what you're saying is the practical version of this theory, right? That actually now black and this black man and black woman thing, well, is now compared to a white woman's privilege. So,
when did you ever think when a bitch is a black, did you ever be told that you are like a white woman?
Man, it's interesting because I also read something they post City Lomdu. Don't speak for a black woman, I speak from a black woman. I was thinking, wow, that's beautiful, that's cute. But forget that we don't speak for black men, we speak from black men. You know what I mean? We are black men in South Africa.
We come from a woman. This may sound fucked up, but black women only know this experience of, okay, this really does sound fucked up, but I am a black man that came from a black woman. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So at some level or another, I was part of the woman's system, incubating. Well, they don't have that chance or experience.
Yeah, we spoke a bit about sensitivity, right? Not dust, and how it is that outside of these liberated zones that we were speaking about, you have to be very sensitive when you address issues that impinge on the Black community. You understand, because there's so many multiple competing discourses that are in many ways tangential to the real problem of what's going on, but we spend a lot of time frustrating each other about
this nigga just say tangential.
Hey.
So of course, and as a man, and validly so, you have to question on what basis are you speaking as a man when you try and contribute to these discussions that are going on, because when women say patriarchy serves all men, they're absolutely right.
Patriarchy is a word that scholars, and in particular feminist scholars, use to describe the ways that the world is organized by ideas about gender, and in particular ideas about men and women. Patriarchy says that men should be in charge and women should follow along and do what men want to do. And so there are lots of ways that patriarchy shapes our lives. I think one of the most clear examples of patriarchy is kind of the idea of the family or the idea of the marriage. And so inside the word patriarchy is the Latin root pater, which means father. And in a patriarchal family, the father is at the top of the family structure. So the father's in charge, maybe the mother's up there, but she's kind of following along, and then the kids are down below. And so that kind of structure might get replicated in lots and lots of other institutions. So if the little family, if the single unit of the family is patriarchal with the dad on top and the mom underneath kind of following along, then a patriarchal institution that's not the family would look the same way. So a patriarchal government structure would say the men should lead and the women should follow along. when the late 18th century, when the United States was founded, we had a patriarchal government structure because women couldn't vote. So the men could lead, the men could tell the women what to do, and the women had no voice. They couldn't vote. They had no choice really but to follow along. Other structures like that might be like businesses or work environments in which the men are the bosses and the women are fulfilling other kinds of duties that are also important but are not valued as highly. So we sometimes see patriarchy through the structure itself, and sometimes we see patriarchy through the kinds of practices that happen in the place. So you might see a situation in which it seems from the outside like the men and the women all have the similar kinds of jobs and similar amounts of power in the space. But if the men actually get to do whatever they want, and the women kind of have to tolerate bad behavior or tolerate being called names or things like that, then even though it looks from the outside like everything's hunky-dory, actually it's a patriarchal structure because the men still have more power than the women.
So you might be coming from a woman, and you might be sympathetic to the plight of women in society, but the problem that women are facing in society serves you as well by virtue of your gender. You understand? You cannot escape that.
But what is the way forward? Okay, so what is the way forward? Because you know I'm benefiting. I've come to that realization when I started to understand what a patriarchal system is. I didn't know I was benefiting until I understood that I was benefiting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm benefiting. So now what is my way forward? What now do you want from me? You understand? What do you want me to do? As a woman, I know you're not a woman, but like, if you could just like stand there, try and see it in their eyes. What would a woman now want from a black man now?
They need to. I mean, look. I'm in no position to answer what a black woman would want from it's so many things that people want.
I know what people want because I'm listening first. For all my talking and all my interrupting the question and all this, I'm listening at all times. Thus, I have a better sense. I just know what resonates because I'm so, and don't forget, and you know this is now fucking 37 years of like, I don't, this is talent. Yeah. Like I've had to come to realize, I'm like, oh, right. In business, in entrepreneurship and communication, no different than in singing and in sports, there is natural talent. The reason I set up the conversation around lemonade and baseball cards, I've been doing this for so long. It's why I was such an atrocious student. It was so black and white to me that I couldn't even pander to societal norms of the 80s to even appease my poor mother who would punish me so bad every report card because I wanted that every second in the classroom to figure out why did they laugh when I disrupted that? Why is everybody wearing those I mean, like I literally just said something that I know D-Rock's never heard this. I used to sit in class and fundamentally analyze everything people wore without even knowing why I was doing that.
I think into a healthy way of confronting or at least dealing with the problem is, of course, for me as an city a liberated zone, to understand, to not be frightened by our disagreements. You understand? We mustn't be frightened by that. We must allow them, just as long as nobody is harmed. You understand? We know by patriarchy can never say it won't harm women. It just I don't know how we would resolve law paradox. You understand? But I think because when women say something, they face a lot of backlash, you understand, from men. You understand? And men also face backlash. So we can't talk. What's causing us not to be able to talk? Don't.
Exactly.
Why are we
Yazi
speaking?
intoni ngayicinga ngoku le way thetha ngento futhi before angene uTMO ntoni the fragmenting of the struggle yabo the way it's so intricate they are struggles within the struggle yabo
you understand these micro struggles
yabo so ke ngoku we lose focus of the struggle okanye what struggle we interested in. And then now we start picking struggles. No.
Yeah,
and then we don't know what we fight for. We don't know what we want.
What is it that we want? What is
like,
it?
For example,
I'll tell you.
Sure.
It's simple. I want to live in harmony with the black woman. Like, do you realize that's how fucked I feel like we live in right now? I'm not even trying to conquer the world right now. I just want to live in harmony with black women, bro. Because it feels like that's actually going to be the fight of my generation. It's not actually economic freedom or all these things that we think we're fighting for. It's that, dog, I want to live in harmony, bro. And maybe, not even maybe, like you're saying, dog, the patriarchy is systematic. We benefit.
We are invested in it, yeah, bro.
Are you then alluding to the fact that we need to maybe rebuild then the black family? Because living in harmony with the black woman, I think that's what it is. Because if I think,
definitely think so. What's the point of getting Imali? What's the point of being a world leader if one day your own sisters are gonna tell you that you are also the problem? For me personally, you know what I mean? And by the fact that, okay, they've told us now that there's a problem, then I wanna change, bruh, you know? Because there's a lot of things that I feel like personally I may not perpetuate, but because of it's the system or whatever it may be, I want it to change. You know what I mean? So that one day when I do have Imaliam or whatever, it actually feels good. Otherwise, what are we doing? You know what I mean? As black people, we all know that, but there's no point in being the only nigga on your Mali and Bonkamayam. That's why, because it's just Sakeleza. From the time we in Tuana, so grade 3, you know what sharing is. You don't mind breaking that off, bro. From the time you're like in grade 3. So I think for us, it really means a lot to feel good about who we are. I don't think black men, and maybe I'm lying, very patriarchal and it's something important. But
no, what you say? Take it as far as
maybe it's because we come from a generation of being raised by single mothers that we see this differently. Because I definitely feel like it does make me feel like, yes, how can all of us do this? Now I'm ready to take those type of stands.
So, why I'm even saying rebuilding of the black family, I want to take this even like to the actual individual. If you look at what was happening in the apartheid system, before democracy, how they broke the black family, they separated the man from the woman. Always the man's always working, the woman's always waiting for the man, and then all of a sudden, they empower the woman. You know what I mean? And they kind of like close the man down. Now the man is like trying to get the woman. He can't get the woman because the woman is more powerful than the man. Then the man is confused.
So they mentioned that in Hidden Colors, yeah.
So basically, when they fuck with the black family like that, black woman and the black man, I'm getting back to what you were also saying, like they don't vibe together. You know what I mean? The black woman thinks the black man ain't shit. Like probably the smartest black woman you'll find. But not the smartest.
So then it becomes a class struggle.
You see, which is why I'm talking about the intricacies of the system. Because you're like, okay, And then even when I LOC, like the class, I'm trying to think now. Now you tapped me off on another zone, yabo.
Of
But
course, of course.
benifuna ukuthi wena lot, yabo. After they create this friction between the black family, yabo, into usake, like your own individual self when I'm fair to yabo, like you go through your own dynamics. You understand? You so detached from yourself, from the earth, so you can't be, for example, in tune with reality, not maybe eating from the earth or walking bare feet. Like, how in tune with the reality can you really be if you don't feel raindrops? You know what I mean? You're not really in tune. Uzongena egarage, ubese motweni yopaka underground, unyuke, you don't get wet. It's raining.
As the fresh air, so applying air conditioner.
You know, and then you talk about reality. You know, like, and that's just like simple, basic fucking things. Yabo Uguchi, like I was arguing with like my younger brother, like, you know, not arguing, but like Jay Yabo, talking about like medicine. Yes, into medicine is like, yeah, but this plant, they just pulled that thing that works and then they put it there. I'm like, yes, but yes, they did that and they created the tablet, but that one is alive. It comes from earth right now. You know what I mean? It's alive, my brother. That one, the one that's in the test tube, it doesn't have that electricity that's coming from the earth right now. So
sure. Yeah. It's a dead enzyme.
It's a dead enzyme. You know, it's gonna boost you, but it's not gonna give you life. It's not gonna give you that state of homeostasis. You know what I mean? That we kind of like wanna fucks with. You know, I actually learned that word this week, man. Yeah, boy, it's my word.
Man.
Homeostasis.
I mean, yeah. You know, you would even question what it is that works from the plant. Okay, it's from the plant, but the rest of the plant doesn't work.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we can the whole plant in China. So yeah, plant. You know what I mean? It's just absolute crap. It's like such bullshit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Zandile Nkosi is a 41-year-old Sangoma who says she's had the gift since she was 10 years old, but started practicing only 7 years ago. She says her ancestors' voices guide her sessions with patients who see her for physical ailments and counseling. A Sangoma's main tool is throwing the bones, animal bones, shells, and sometimes other articles. The healers and their patients believe how the bones land is influenced by ancestors who speak through the bones.
If you would have gone to a Western doctor would take an X-ray or examine you. You know, this is my tool to ascertain what's wrong with her.
City, it's such a multi-fragmented struggle. You understand? There is nothing we can agree on. It's about class, it's about gender, it's about race. If we're gonna start this conversation, I think, you know, gloves, it must be gloves off, you understand? And I think that's where a kind of transformation is possible. That's where something good will emerge. You understand? Once we've exhausted all of these disagreements, you understand, and we know what the agenda is. You understand? You know, so I question even the concepts that a lot of people use to articulate this kind of struggle. That of course is valid. It's valid experiences, but I think we need to be critical of where the concepts come from and how they kind of lend themselves to creating discord. You understand? Because they've got an agenda. You understand? Or they've got a lack of insight. You understand? into the black condition, you understand? They don't lend themselves to putting us together, you understand? Why? And only blacks, as blacks, will be able to create that agenda for ourselves outside of any kind of white intervention, be it by e-concepts of whiteness, be it by, you know, whatever other royal resources that whiteness lends to blacks in the service of black resistance. You understand?